So we're going to get in today a little bit on the psychology of how Stolas parents Octavia and their relationship. And I think it's also really interesting of the differences and the similarities of how Stolas was parented and how he parents Octavia and how he does it differently than how he was parented himself. So let's delve on in to the relationship between Stolas and Octavia.
Mommy, Daddy! Vivia's calling us, Stella.
You get up.
It is really hard when you're tired and you have a lot of dark nights. I think that a lot of people are like, it's another show of Stella not really caring about her little girl. Stolas was the one that got up. We don't know what the parenting relationship really is between Stella and Octavia.
What troubles you, my owlet?
Daddy! Daddy! I had a dream. A really bad dream.
A nightmare.
I was looking all over the palace, and I couldn't find you anywhere. You weren't there.
This is a really common nightmare for children because their parental group is the people that keep them safe. For a lot of children, that is the fear of being abandoned, the fear of someone dying, the fear of being left alone, of not having control over a situation. And it's a hard one to be able to get rid of. You can often have abandonment issues or attachment issues that will carry through all the way into adulthood. But having a secure base of knowing that you're loved and you're cared for can be really healing towards that.
There, Via, it's okay. You're okay. When you're scared and you don't know where I am, you must remember, no matter what happens to me, I will never be far away from my special little starfire.
And the next part is that Stolas doesn't demean it. He doesn't tell her that she's silly for having this. And I think that a lot of times when we see someone that we care about in distress, we want to make them feel better immediately. And sometimes the way that we do that is by kind of dismissing it or saying, you don't have anything to worry about, or this is never gonna happen. And the problem is that you can't really promise that. I think that Stolas handles this in actually a really good way. He doesn't demean that she's saying this. He doesn't try to push away her fears, and he doesn't make her feel stupid for feeling that way. But he does try to give her something of hope and of something that is stable to let her hold on to when she does feel this fear.
It always seems more quiet in the dark.
And a lot of people ask me, why do all of their fears kind of come to them when it's nighttime or right before they go to sleep? They're fine during the daytime, but at night it seems when all of their thoughts creep in, all of their negativity, all of their worries. That's usually because of two things. One is during the day we're busy. There's all kinds of distractions. There's things to keep our mind occupied. And usually at night, not only is there usually not people there, it's usually darker, which already starts for some people to make them feel a little bit more anxious because we don't have night vision. So nighttime was a smart idea to stay closer to our home base, which was protective to us. And two, because there's no distractions, our mind can wander. And that's what our mind does while we're falling asleep. We're paying attention to all of those thoughts that may be rummaging in the background of our mind. And often that's when we decide that these are so very important. You want to make sure for your brain to give yourself good sleep habits. So maybe have a good sleep routine, watch things or listen to things that make you feel intrigued or happy, and then give your brain something to do instead of worry. It's going to do something no matter what. Give it a task, one that is entertaining enough to keep it busy, but not so entertaining that you will stay awake. So it gets onto a track that is not a worry track, a fear track, or one of negativity.
I used to think that I was bold. I used to think love would be fun.
And so what about playing something? I have a lot of people that will play music or listen to a podcast or watch TV before they go to sleep. It's an okay technique. It's okay because it keeps your brain busy. The part that I don't like about it is that it's not actually having you practice or train to be able to control the negativity. So it's something that can work in the interim, but you still want to also practice training your brain to be able to go through the natural sleep habits without having to have something, especially something that you may not always have access to. So it's okay, but not the best way. The best way would be to help practice and train your brain to be able to stay calm, because when you're anxious, you can't sleep. When you're anxious, your brain says, stay awake, there's a tiger that's going to eat me. When there's a tiger or any other worry, falling asleep would have been a danger, because that's when the tiger would eat you and you wouldn't be awake to be able to know it. And so anxiety will actually stop you from being able to fall asleep. And for some people, the anxiety is falling asleep. When they feel themselves going into those sleep waves, you'll actually get a little shot of adrenaline, epinephrine in your system, or cortisol, that actually spikes you back to being in an awake state. So sometimes the fear is the fear of falling asleep, or that thought of I'm not falling asleep, which can actually cause the anxiety, which becomes a negative spiral. I like this song.
Okay. When I'm gone, you'll be okay.
And for sleep training little ones, I'm just going to give a little tiny tip. You actually do not want them to fall fully asleep in your arms. You want them to be soothed, to place them back into the bed and let them fall asleep on their own without you there or holding them. I know that this is something that for a lot of people is very difficult, but the thing is that you want to teach people sleeping is a skill. So you want to teach your children and adults to be able to fall asleep without the need for you, so they learn the skill of being able to go through all the sleep stages with themselves, and that they can learn that they're able to do it. If not, every time they wake up, they're going to feel nervous because they don't really feel comfortable to be able to hit all of those sleep waves on their own.
Upon the last day, and you will be okay.
And it's okay every now and then for them to fall asleep with you and you put them to sleep, but you don't want them to be so strongly attached that the only way that they can fall asleep is with you. That's actually causing a dependency on you, and often we do that for our own selfish reasons because we want to get to sleep, and that's faster and that's easier. But the thing is, it's not actually teaching the skill for it. So it's okay every once in a while, but if you're doing it all the time, it's not the best way to be able to train someone to be able to fall asleep and to make them feel independent. And then there's a whole bunch of cultural issues. Is co-sleeping okay? Is it horrible? Really, there's different cultural ways of being able to do things, but you want your child to be able to do all the natural activities that they would be able to do with their friend groups and peers and others. And so that's the best way to have them become an independent sleeper.
You slept with an imp in our
It wasn't expected. I didn't have time to go to the motel.
a motel! Like a plebeian!
My world is burning down around me.
Growing up in a home when there is really violent fighting, aggression, and the people that you care about are at each other's throats is so exceptionally damaging to children. It changes our length of our telomeres, but also it changes our sense of safety. It changes our sense of self. It increases our levels of anxiety, because hearing people yell, hearing aggression, hearing vitriol, it actually damages the way that we feel safe in the world. Because if our home base isn't safe, then how dangerous must the world be? Plus, whenever you hear loud noises, not just yelling, not even anger, but just loud noises, it increases our anxiety level. But hearing that all the time can actually give us generalized anxiety, where our anxiety gets stuck at that level. It doesn't go down. And so constantly having this anxiety system triggered can get it stuck. Plus, it can make us feel these senses of control or trying to find ways to escape. And we can often be in so much distress constantly hearing it that we can find maladaptive ways to try to escape. For Octavia, she uses music so she can kind of drown out these sounds. Other people might use video games or alcohol or drugs. All of these are our ways to not have to hear and contain all of this damaging emotional content, because strong emotional content permeates everyone around you. It's contagious. And those of us that are more feelers are also really permeable to that. But it's damaging for everyone that's in that system.
You want to this one too?
No, of course not.
You are a embarrassment. I'm not spending another moment looking at your pathetic imp face!
So does that mean that you should never yell or scream in the home? Actually, Yeah, no, don't scream in the home unless it is for safety. If you're always screaming or always yelling or speaking with a really loud voice, then when you need to tell someone to stop doing something or there's danger happening, and that's when you need to raise your voice so that they understand that this is danger, there won't be any reaction. So what happens if you need to have a discussion or a fight with someone? Yes, go to another location if that is at all possible. Could be the garage, could be outside, could be going for a walk, could be going to the car. That doesn't mean that any disagreement is not one that you should have. If you can exercise the proper skills of having conflict, which is a skill, and you can go through it in a way that can be healthy, even if you're not happy with the person that you're with, it is not as damaging to those that are around you. You want to keep parental issues between the parents. The kids should be clean of that. They don't need to become involved. They shouldn't become pawns. You both chose each other and they should be able to love both of you freely. Often parents also try to pit you against the other parent, which can be really damaging in your relationship with yourself and feelings of safety, and also that feeling of loyalty and care. This does not have to be a war where everyone has to pick a side and there's good guys and bad guys. But there's of course there's nuance and there's special cases and specific cases that I won't get into. There are some exceptions where there is a danger and people need to know to keep them safe. I just want you to have a thought of the way that you deal with discourse and what are you teaching to others and what are you giving to your children that might be around this.
Good morning, Octavia. Did you sleep well, my Owlet?
Is that a serious question?
That's Stolas. He really does try to not have all of this situation around, but also he doesn't have the skills. We're not taught how to parent. It's one of the hardest jobs to do. We're taught how to do such simple things such as fill in a job application and how to do basic math. And this is so much more difficult because every situation has different separate rules. So we often end up parenting the way that we were parented, or we're just doing the best that we can. And so Stolas as a caretaker just is trying to be really sunny, but for Octavia, it seems disingenuous because you both hate each other and I have to deal with this, so of course it's not a great day. And I think that for Stolas it's because he feels such guilt in her having to go through this as well.
What's that you're listening to?
This song is called My World is Burning Down Around Me. It's by Dad. It's a band.
Oh, how charming.
And he actually handles it really well with her throwing this vitriol. When you're holding all of these really intense emotions and angst and pain, you might have a difficulty in the way that you express that. And so I like that he allowed her to express it. I think that he could do a better job of giving her a space to be able to share how she really deeply feels and how difficult it is. But I think that at least he doesn't get angry at her for saying these things at him where she feels even more shut down and she might end up internalizing this pain, and then it might come out in a different type of maladaptive behaviors, such as maybe pulling out your hair or hurting or cutting yourself or other ways of self-harm, because you don't feel like there's any other ways of expressing yourself.
You know what I haven't done in a long, long time? I haven't taken you to your favorite place in all of hell. Why don't we go to Lululand?
I'm not 5 anymore.
You always were so happy when I took you to Lululand.
And that brings me back to the way that Stolas' father treated him when he was upset.
That usually works. Oh, would you like it if I took you to the circus in town? Children enjoy the circus, right? Would that distract you enough from your non-negotiable future marriage?
And that is what we sometimes do, is that we repeat these same patterns of behavior that the way that we were parented. And it's kind of interesting that even sometimes when we say, I'm never going to do this, or I don't want to say this, it kind of comes out of us, because when we're going through distress, we're actually recording the way that we were parented in times of stress. So often we're going to repeat the worst of parenting skills that our parents did for us. I don't think that this is the worst of parenting skills. I think that bringing someone to a place that used to make them happy is a fair enough idea. But it's probably one, just like for Stolas, he didn't care about this anymore. Octavia is also saying that this is no longer her favorite place to be able to go. Also shows he's not as cued in to who she is right now as who she was a while ago.
What do you say we go there again? Have a day. Just the two of us.
I'd rather kill myself.
There we go. Anything but staying in this house. Now,
But also you can see that he's been looking at this photo of a happier time. And so that's probably imprinted upon him that this is a fun thing. And also he might have his own memories and thoughts of what he enjoyed through his childhood. And sometimes we project that as well. I love that Stolas gets all dressed up and he's all into it. Such a difference from his own father, who was only there through the mirror, that wasn't actually even there in person, but he's showing all of the enthusiasm. He really wants her to enjoy herself, so like he gets all dressed up, but it's the absolute last thing that a child wants when they're going through their teenage years, to have their parent making a spectacle of themselves in front of everyone, where she's pulling her beanie over her head like she just wants to die and curl up and have no one be able to see her.
Now remember, this is work and work only. Me and my crew are not here to satisfy your perverted bird needs, all right?
Hey, Dad, do we have to...
Okay, hold on right there, sweetie. If you try f***ing my little in that park, I swear to
you are so cute when you are serious.
I'm literally going to be sick.
And it's also difficult for someone to watch their parents fawn over someone else. It's often not even something that we want to think about. You want to kind of keep that separate until you're actually ready to introduce someone into your child's life. You want to kind of keep all of the messy bits or you flirting with people away from them, because for most teenagers, they really don't want to be involved. And I'll just say it, for a lot of children, of course, but for adults also.
Is it true this park is just a really shameless spin-off of Lucifer's far more popular Lulu World?
No?
This place reeks of insecure corporate shame.
Why don't we go check out the rides?
Instead of him kind of dismissing what she said, they could have bonded over. Now, sometimes when you go to something that's so horrible, you can bond over the horribleness of a situation and be able to form that to be moments. You want to understand where your child is at emotionally and be there with them and be able to enjoy in what they're enjoying, or hating on the same thing that what they're hating on. I think that a lot of time with young adult children is that they're not yet adults and they're not children anymore, and so we don't know how to treat them. I think that they usually appreciate a lot if they're treated with respect and listened to for what their thoughts are and what their views are of the world. It also ends up helping them be able to form their own sense of self and giving them a voice where their voice matters, instead of being something where it's always us trying to teach them something or tell them how we're right and they're wrong.
Oh, look, Thea! You used to cry such tears of joy at this show.
Oh, no.
I hate that
clown.
The fear of clowns is a really common one for many people, children and adults. It's called chlorophobia. It's a little bit because clowns are not showing what they truly feel. They have these faces that are exaggerated, and you end up with this uncanny valley that you can't really read what they're feeling and why. The exaggerated features, the exaggerated feet or hands can cause people to feel a lot of fear. And it doesn't just happen with clowns. You need to be aware that even if you love clowns, it may not be the first thing that you should have at a birthday party unless you're sure of how everyone else feels about it, because for many people they're terrifying. Same thing with certain dolls. People can have the same type of feeling towards it. So it's really common. Stolas's thought to this is completely different than Octavia's, and that doesn't mean that she's right or he's wrong. It could be a mix between both. She might have loved clowns for a really long time, and then one thing happened or one experience happened and completely changed her mind to it that he wasn't paying attention to. And because she felt such a fear reaction, that's the one time that she holds on to. Because our memories are not an accurate depiction of what has happened through time, like a video that's out there. It's more that whatever we felt in the moment, those emotions grow and they actually take up more space in our brain. Things that are traumatic can take up a lot more space, remembering everything, and a lot of other moments that might be just mainstay or dull, just get forgotten because there was nothing important that was linked to our survival for our brain to hold onto it and put to long-term memory.
I sing along with the Lulu band. Every boy, every girl, every woman, every man loves Lulu.
And similar also here to Stolas' father, like being like, oh, this is so wonderful, and not noticing that his child feels completely different about this situation, especially when you are doing something for someone else. You want to be cued into, are they actually enjoying this or are they not? And Octavia, in this case, is completely not having a good time. And sometimes we do that because we're trying to avoid the distress. Sometimes we are not reading or really fully taking in. For some people, they have a hard time to be able to take in when other people are not feeling good. They're actually not absorbing it. They're not trying to avoid that to be cruel to another person. They really just don't take in that type of negative feedback very well. Sometimes that's their own defense mechanism at play. And sometimes they're just people are so engrossed in a situation that they're not aware. They're enjoying something so much that they're not paying attention to anything else because that's taking up all of their attention at the moment.
Oh, my, what good aim you have, Blitzy.
Ugh, I can't do this anymore.
And I think that for Octavia, it's two things. I think that Stolas is so excited to have Blitz over helping him at the same time, and he's at a circus, which also brings him happy memories because that's where he first met Blitz. And he's kind of at the throes for him of the beginnings of a relationship, that's taking up a lot of his mind frame, and he's losing a little bit of the point that he came here for Octavia.
Ugh, I can't do this anymore.
Octavia!
But at least in that moment, he gets it. When she leaves, he gets cued in that she's upset. And he's paying now attention that she's left instead of just letting her go on her own. And that's a difficult thing. Do you follow someone or do you give them space? It really depends on who they are and what they need at the moment. Sometimes it is a better thing to be able to follow them, especially if they have abandonment issues or don't feel loved or cared about. Or sometimes it's better to give them the space, especially if that's what they've requested and they feel like they're becoming suffocated and need that sense of control.
Octavia, I take it you are not having fun.
I didn't even want to come here.
I'm sorry, sweetie.
I like that he took off the hat. I think that was the first sign of, I understand that this is not enjoyment for you and I want to be really serious and I want you to know that I'm serious. And you see that tone shift that he had?
I take it you are not having fun.
At first he had this kind of sugary voice to him, and then after right away he got into a very serious voice that he wanted her to know that he's hearing her. And so he lowered his octave and he made it much more meaningful. Instead of trying to impart his happiness in hopes that him being happy, she would kind of absorb that, he's allowing himself to be serious because she's serious. He's matching her emotional content. That's a really important thing for attachment, but also to be able to mirror to someone else that I'm starting to understand where you're coming from.
I thought you loved it here.
When I was a kid and my parents didn't hate each other. My dad didn't flirt with a weird red the entire time.
I'm sorry, Via. I'm sorry for everything happening right now. I know it's a lot. I should have listened.
And it's a really difficult thing to be able to hear someone else's pain and to be able to carry that. I love that Octavia felt safe enough, though, to share all of the different pieces of her parents constantly fighting, them hating each other, him flirting in front of her with Blitz, and he flirts very overtly with Blitz, and that also is really hard. And for Stolas, instead of defending that, usually what happens when someone says that we've done something wrong, we want to defend ourselves, say that we're not a monster, we didn't mean this, and so we go through all of these defenses, but that ends up making the other person not feel heard, not feel listened to. And so I like that Stolas feels it and begins to apologize instead of just make defenses to it.
I just want to go home. But home doesn't even feel like home anymore. You ruined it.
You need to understand, your mother and I felt she's always been, I haven't been, we weren't in.
And you don't want to unload all of the issues that you have in a relationship on the other person. I think that it's difficult for Stolas because it's difficult for him to understand himself, where his emotions and feelings are coming from. But also I like that he wasn't able to share all of that, because he might feel like he's unburdening himself, but he would be burdening it upon Octavia. I think that what matters in this is that he hears her pain, he understands where she's coming from, and he's able to be there to comfort her. Our children, no matter what the age, they're not our therapists and they're not our friends. And even if you have adult children, you should not be unloading all of your pain upon them. Even if you are an adult, you should not become the therapist or the person that is going to be hearing all of the pain of what your parents have gone through. You still, even as an adult, deserve to be able to love both parents and to be clean of all of the mess that they've done to each other. That's between them.
I'm sorry, I don't have the words.
Are you gonna run off with him? And leave me behind? Go away where I can't find you?
And a lot of times people think that when you have adult or young adult children that they no longer need you because they seem so independent. But they still do, and they often still have the same fears. I love that she's able to share it very plainly, that I'm worried that you're gonna leave me for someone else. I'm gonna be replaced. I'm gonna be alone. And she shared it in really definitive terms. And I don't think that it's easy for people often to hear that, and they often kind of dismiss, of course, I would never do that to you. But it's a very common fear, even for us as young adults or as adults, is what will my place be in your life if life changes? How will it change for me? And it's very important to be able to explain that, especially if you're going through a divorce or a separation, so that everyone understands what is the plan so they don't spin or worry unnecessarily.
What? No, never. I'd never do that.
And I think that a lot of times we assume that they just know that. Of course they should know that. This would never happen. We often don't. You want to be able to specifically state things, even if you assume, if you think that someone, of course they know this. Stating it often, they don't. You think you might have even said it and maybe they haven't heard it. And sometimes people need to hear things multiple times in order for them to sink in, especially if it's an area of a wound or something that's hurt them or a fear that they have.
Never. I think it's time to leave this place. You were right. You are too old for it anyway.
I love that he carries her. I think that a lot of times we'd be like, oh, that's kind of infantilizing her. But in this case, it's that I'm feeling held. And that's what he did when she was little, to make her feel comforted and safe. I think that it's something really sweet that he does, that sense of unity, that we're together. And I think that we still need to be held and cuddled and hugged, and a lot of people, that is their love language and they feel comfortable for that. And so even adult children, that doesn't mean that they don't need to still be hugged or cared for in an affectionate way. A lot of times we think that people are too old for that, and that's completely not the case. I have so many people that are adults and still wanting their parent to be able to hug them and give them a real hug. And if you don't like it, that's okay too. Let the other person know, what is your love language? How do you want to feel cared for? It is our job to be able to share and teach people what we feel comfortable with so that they can do that. Because a lot of times the other person just doesn't know. They assume something, and sometimes wrongly so.
So, what would you like to do now?
Oh, can we go to Stylish Coles? They sell weird taxidermy there.
Okay.
Thanks, Dad. You're okay sometimes.
Thank you, Via.
I love that he asked her what she wants to do. Even though she wants to go to a place that he wouldn't think or he doesn't find enjoyment with, he's gonna go and join her in something that she enjoys. And a lot of times, if you're not sure what someone needs or wants, you can just ask them, and hopefully they'll feel comfortable to let you know. I think that he handled it really well in being able to have Octavia feel heard and then to be able to share some time together, bonding. Come out out from the darkness with all the knowledge you could ever possibly need with today's sponsor, Brilliant.org. Learn a new skill and be prepared for whatever life has damned you for. Learn, enjoy, enhance with Brilliant's ever-growing set of new courses. That's the cool thing about Brilliant, is that Brilliant brings to you college-level courses. Courses that may not be available to you or may be too expensive in a way that's really affordable and helps you stay focused while you learn these skills demonically quick. And Brilliant makes learning like a game. It has fun features, it lets you challenge yourself, and it lets you compete with others so that it keeps learning from becoming boring or tedious. We already know that when learning is fun and engaging, it just sticks better and you have a better chance of finishing every course that you start. And Brilliant has thousands of lessons, and Brilliant's chosen those lessons that are difficult or stressful for so many people: math, chemistry, physics, computer science, and it has new courses added monthly. So you never have to worry that there won't be something new to add to your list of courses that you're going to be doing. So just practice a skill. All you have to do is spend 15 minutes a day on a course. I've done their courses on logic, on problem solving, on algebra, and I got to construct the critical thinking skills that are the basis for mathematical reasoning, which helps me understand other mathematical skills more easily. Plus, it was fun. I know, you're like, no, you're just saying that. No, it was fun. It was enjoyable. If I felt stressed, I could chop it down into a smaller piece. If I didn't understand a concept, I could take a look at a visual representation. And I love that because I'm a visual learner, or it might not be at the pace that I learn at. And so I like that I can go back and redo something or slow it down, and there was no pressure. They also have new courses like How Large Language Models Work. If you don't know that, you should watch the course, or the Intro into Probability. And if you're still not sure, you're like, I don't know, I don't feel like spending the money, well then just try it all out. All of it. For free. Yes, that still helps me. Visit brilliant.org/Georgia Dow or click on the link in the description, and you get to support me and the content that I make. And if you want more, you can also get 20% off of an annual premium subscription. And clicking on that button really does help out this channel, so thank you Brilliant.org, and thank you to you for helping support my content, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video. No matter what your parenting style is, if you can listen to the other person, be able to read them and give them what they're needing at the moment, that is what makes us feel loved and cared about. And I think that in this case, Stolas really has stopped that pattern of neglect that he went through with his own father. So that's my thought on Stolas and Octavia and his parenting skills. You can let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below.